I'm Nazli Sharmin, and my colleague is Eva. We are from the School of Dentistry. In our title, there are some words that I thought may be new to some of you, so I decided to go over those terms before I actually start the presentation, so we're all on the same page. So the first term I'd like to explain is genetics. So the genetics refers to the study of genes or DNA. In our body, we have cells, and inside our cells, wrapped in the chromosome, we have DNA. And the codes of DNA, all the letters that you can see, A, T, G, C, they literally stores all the information of our body. And genetics is the study of those information. The next term I would like to explain is secondary database. Now, with the advancement of gene sequencing technology, the biological data is rapidly expanding. And there are some primary databases that has been developed, which stores this DNA sequence, protein sequence, or this large amount of biological data from all the organisms. GenBank is one such extremely large primary database that stores information, all genetic information, basically from all organisms. And secondary database, that is in our title, are generated by deriving information from primary databases to meet specific needs. So I hope these terms make sense. So let's now move on to the actual presentation. So I'll start with a little bit of background information. So at the School of Dentistry, the students study genetics of tooth and facial development through didactic lectures only. And the knowledge of genetics is rapidly expanding, and the students at the dentistry are not really familiar with this increasing data set. And there is a growing surge towards applying active learning strategies in higher education. Now, there are two different things, actually. The first one is that the knowledge of genetics is rapidly expanding, and the students are not really familiar with it. But the second thing is that there is a search for active learning, which is currently absent for genetics in dentistry. So let me explain just a little bit on what do I actually mean by the knowledge of genetics is expanding and what does it mean for dentistry students. Now, genes or DNA regulate the development of tooth and its surrounding oral structure. So far, there are more than 200 genes that have been identified to be involved in tooth development. Not only tooth, but the development of head and neck and the surrounding regions are also regulated by genes and proteins. And alteration of any of these regulation can lead to genetic disorders, developmental anomalies. And the contribution of genes are already identified in periodontal disease, dental caries, and so on. So I hope that you can understand that there's lots and lots of genes are involved only in this facial and oral region. How many of genes and regulation can you actually remember? Currently, at the dentistry program, this is how genetics is being taught to students. Just to give you an idea, they learn like gene A is involved in condition A, and a mutation in some position causes this. Now, if you have noticed, there is no active learning, mostly didactic lecture, and the students are expected to learn or know information that is not easily retained or not really very useful in their future life, knowing specific information of mutation. They're actually not learning about how to use a biological database or how to actually interpret the genetic data. And I don't know about you, but to me, it's a big problem. So even if you don't remember what I have been talking so far, just remember that this one thing, that there is no active learning currently present for genetics in dentistry program. So that's our first problem. And I want you to just remember this, and I will take you to something else. Now, I mentioned earlier that with the advancement of gene sequencing technology, the biological data is rapidly expanding. But there is no database to archive and organize the large amount of genetic information that is related to tooth and facial development, like dental specific things. So that is our second problem, that currently there is no secondary database to compile all the dental specific genetic information. Now, if I want to give you a summary of the whole thing that I was talking about, so there is a growing number of genetic information, rapidly growing, and we don't have any secondary database specific for dental needs. And from our first problem, we don't really have any active learning strategies in genetics. So there are two different problems. As a solution, what we have done is that we have developed a prototype of a secondary database called Genetics for Dentistry to use as an active learning tool for teaching genetics in the dentistry program. And that should make everyone happy. So this is a screenshot of our database. We used Ragic to develop a prototype of the database. So currently it contains information only from the genes that are involved in dentin and enamel formation. So instead of talking about it, why not I just show you how our database looks like? So that right now it has 59 genes, as you can see, and the information are organized into like cellular process, gene name, gene ID, general description, chromosomal location, there's function on the dental specific function, literature, and something else. And there is a number of genes that are listed. So if you click on one of the gene, it will take you to their main page so you can see all the data in detail. Now, if you click on the gene ID, it takes you to the original primary database page, to the gene bank, where you can get more information about this gene, download the gene sequences, and so on. You can look at its general description, find its chromosome number, where it is located. You can know what protein is being coded. And it also takes you to the original primary database page of GenBank, where you can learn more about that protein if you're interested. Now, if you go back to our original database page, you can see dental specific function. Specific, this gene did not have any mutation, so it's not listed here, but you can see the protein sequence there. You can find the literature that originally talking about this function of the gene. So you have access to the literature. And you can also access to some external tool to know, for example, the cellular pathway, like in what type of function this protein is doing in our body. You can even look at the three-dimensional structure of the protein and actually look at the three-dimensional structure, orient, and play with it. So now let me show you how you can search the database. Now you can always go to the search bar and type your keywords to search it. You can also make some specific search based on cellular process, chromosome number. So to give you an idea, let's say I'm interested to see how many genes are involved in enamel formation. So if you hit search, you will see that 25 genes are returned. That's our result, are involved in enamel formation. If you scroll down, all the results are showing the genes that are involved in enamel formation. You can even make the search more specific. So let's say you want to see the genes that are involved in enamel formation and also located in chromosomes 17 and 19. So now you can see this, you have only 5 results, and the genes are involved in chromosome number 19, 19, and chromosome number 17. You can clear your previous search just by clearing what you have been searching, the button right here. And you can search by, let's say, the general function. So I was interested to see, for example, how many genes are involved, or they are basically a transcription factor. So just write down transcription factor and hit search. Now you can see that the 7 genes has been returned who are actually transcription factor. So just to show you that if you go inside the gene page and look at their description, here it says that this gene family is a family of transcription factor who actually binds to a DNA to regulate their expression. So I'm just going back to my previous search and just clear what was there. And want to show you another thing. You can search the database with, let's say, some dental specific search. So I want to see how many genes are involved in mineralization, which is a very important function during tooth development. So if you search, then you see 13 genes are involved. As a result, they're involved in mineralization. That's the dental specific function by this gene. Now, the last thing I want to show you that you can also search the database by protein sequence. So if you have a sequence that you know, maybe a drug binding site or a specific interaction site, you can hit search and then you see this matching with the sequence and only one result is returned. So now, just to give you an idea, summarizing what you have seen, that we have used REGIC to create our secondary database. Right now, it's still at the prototype stage because we have included data that are involved in enamel and dentin formation. And we took a systematic approach to identify and compile data from the primary databases and from the literature. And we had a summer student working with us, and our collaborators like me, Eva, and the summer student, we systematically collected those, check and double check for accuracy. And the third thing I want to mention is that right now it archives only 59 human genes that are involved in enamel and dentin formation. And you can search the database by any keywords that are related to cellular process, chromosome number, chromosome location, gene name, protein sequence, or any other keywords. Now, you're probably wondering, how can we use this database as an active learning tool? So the active learning is supported by constructivist theory, which suggests that the learning is a process of making meaning, which occurs more proficiently when the learners build their own understanding. And science education only by lecturing is not very effective and identified as a leading cause of student losing interest. There is an increasing number of educational institutes worldwide are supporting active learning strategies and replacing their lectures with some active learning activities. And previously, in university at the United States, pharmacogenomics classes used genetic data analysis as an active learning strategy. Successfully, they used it and was very much appreciated by the students. So we are aiming to introduce our secondary database as an active learning tool to teach genetics at the School of Dentistry. We are planning to design projects for students that will involve small data set searching and analyzing, and it will supplement the lecture. And we hope that this active learning tool will make the students more interested in tooth-related data and improve their understanding of this complex genetic regulation. So in the conclusion, I'd like to mention that at this moment, we have a small number of data sets involved in dentin and enamel formation, but we are planning to include data involving the development of whole facial region, jaw, and all the parts of tooth development. We are hoping to include more interactive tool embedded in the data sets so students or users can interact with the data, compare sequences, interact more with the protein structure. And we are planning to review this database annually and update it as needed. And we're hoping that this will become a useful active learning tool for the students of dentistry program. Now I would like to acknowledge Shenis Govaya, who was a summer student who worked in this project and the funding source of School of Dentistry for funding this project. And these are our references. Thank you so much.